to running your first tabletop. I'm not on that slide, but I wrote it, so...
We love
this
you,
is the one slide I
sorry.
didn't write, so...
No,
Sorry.
This is the slide with pictures of people's faces.
Hi, face.
So, yeah. I'm assuming that if you've come to this panel, you do have an idea of what tabletop gaming is, or you're in very much the wrong panel. How many people here have actually have played tabletop already? Everyone.
Whee.
Good. This panel is worthless. But yeah, I think this slide's worthless. You can just go on.
There's only one line on this slide that matters, and that is like Mark, with less injuries.
I don't know, I've seen more tabletop injuries than I have LARP injuries.
When people aren't doing LARP right.
Oh no, when the GM's got metal dice specifically for throwing at the idiots.
Yes.
We're not allowed metal dice anymore.
That's the only reason we have metal dice. If you're being an absolute twat, you get a metal dice thrown at you.
Could be worse, it could be one of those metal dice that's also one of the tentacle spiky dice.
No, it is one of the ones with
Oh dear. Right.
Okay.
I would do that if your players were really being twats. Yes, this is how to run your tabletop game. Oh, are you looking for the other panel? Corresponding project downstairs.
Oh, right.
Oops. Anyway,
That's a very good summary of what D&D looks like with me involved.
Yes. I have never been in the top group, but I've been in the below group. So yeah, if you want to run your own game, I think I feel obviously like if you want to play your own game, I don't think you should just jump in and be like, I'm immediately going to run my own game. I think it's a good idea to play in someone else's first. Then you get an idea for how things work, and most importantly, what the DM does that you like and what your GM does that you dislike. So you can be like, when I run it, I'm never going to be that much of a... and then do it anyway. Insert swear word. Why am I censoring myself?
I don't know, it's an 18 plus con, darling.
Anyway, yeah.
You're fine.
When I'm deciding on what campaign I'm going to play, I generally decide on the setting first. So whether I want to do sci-fi or fantasy or something. In the group that I'm currently in, we have a couple of people who GM, so we tend to take it in turns. So I tend to also partially base it on what have we been playing recently, because I don't want to play that anymore. So we've been playing a lot of fantasy and sci-fi, so I'm planning on an urban setting for the next campaign that I'm going to run, just to be a bit of a change. And also game style. Different people like different game styles, different players like different game styles. Some people like the sort of thing where it's it's really hard and your GM's going to murder you if you take one step wrong. Some people like stuff that's a bit more free and loose and comedy. Some people like stuff that's all dramatic and, we're deciding the fate of countries. And other people like Emii, like to abandon people and run away in the middle of fights. So
that was a good campaign.
It was an excellent campaign. Yes, I mean you came back, but it was still an annoyance. Yeah, obviously, I tend to find that once I've decided on what sort of system and style, I'll decide on which system I'm going to use. D&D is the one that most people use, but it's certainly not the only one by any stretch. I personally have run GURPS and I've run Comics Code as well. And I've played in the Warhammer games, and I've played in a lot of homebrews.
And I've played a lot of Pathfinder.
Yes, and I've played a lot of homebrews. More homebrews than I have proper systems, to be honest. It's a case of just finding the systems that you find work for you. I personally, although I have played in D&D, I don't like it too much. I find it a little too convoluted with some of the rules for what I like to do. But other people really like that. Other people like having really complex rules about weight management and some people are mad.
Circumference.
How much food can I eat? How likely are we to starve in this desert? I don't care. But yeah, that's different people wanting different things. Some people like the whole survival aspect of, hunting for your food and managing your inventory, and other people are sane. So
Other people don't want to sit there and see how many fishes and loads of thread and bits of string they've brought.
yeah, it's whenever we run D&D and you have this many rations, I'm just going to assume that's enough rations until I have to panic. Obviously, nearly all systems. The D&D where I have played it, I have homebrewed it a bit. I think a lot of people will, to some extent, unless you're playing a pre-made adventure, which are, D&D has them, I think most systems have them,
You can
where
buy
you'll,
books of them.
yeah, you'll buy a book, it will give you, like, the adventure, what it is you have to run your players through. Some of these are really good. Some of them maybe not so good, it depends what you're after. Some of these can be really good if you're just starting and you're like not quite sure how to set up your own world building first. You can run through one of those with your players instead. Or you can do as I did and just dive straight into making your own world from scratch, because I'm insane. At least I didn't make my own system as well, which is what some people I know have done. They've been like, I'm making my entire new game from scratch because I don't like anything in any of them.
Or you can do my favourite thing, which is to go, I like this television show. I'm going to base my whole game on this television show.
Oh yeah.
And pretend it's not.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, I take advantage of the fact that a lot of the people that I play with have not read or seen a lot of the things that I've seen, so they don't know. They ran through half of this world and they don't know because none of them have read it.
Look at these really well-developed characters I've totally developed.
Yeah.
Next.
Yes. Next. Tips to be a good DM.
That is a beautiful picture to sum it up.
Yes. I spent too long on the internet going, what are good D&D memes? Yes. Tips to be good. First one, never say no. Instead of saying no, you say, okay, roll for that. And you just make the thing that they have to roll for ridiculous, unless they roll, you know, really high. I tend to find that if you just, like, if a player, like, you know, you're like, there's a really big monster in your way, like, you know it's a way too high level for them to take, you're hoping they'll take another path, and someone goes, I'm going to headbutt it. Instead of going, no, you go, okay, you're aware, you can say, like, okay, you do know that this thing will kill you, right? But if they're being, you know, players, they're just going, no, I want to twat it.
Twat it on
You
head.
go, okay, roll for that. You got injured, well done. Roll a new character, you know, if needs be.
Or you died.
It's, a lot of players will not thank you if you try to, yes.
You can also punish stupidity by doing like losing an arm as opposed to
Yes.
overall
Yes.
things like that.
Yes, I know I've done things before of, yes.
One thing I've heard from another group of GMs is never say no, but say no but, yes, or yes but, or no and. So you sort of give them a consequence.
Yeah.
Yes. It's that sort of thing, like, even if it is a thing of, like, you're saying no because you know something that the players don't and you don't want them to know yet, you still have to, like, give them a concrete reason why they can't do that, which is very frustrating for players because it's not a video game. There are no set rules saying, you know, you can't do this because I haven't programmed it, you know.
Yeah.
It's why I feel like a lot of DMing is improv, really.
Yeah. You can't do that if you use something like Roll20. You can't.
I have never used Roll20.
Or 20 deserves 120% effort on the part of the DM.
Yeah.
I have, I will be honest that I have only ever played in real life. You two know more about Roll20 than I do. I don't know if you've ever GM'd in Roll20, have you?
I've not GM'd in Roll20, but I've played Roll20.
Yes.
The next tip is very important. The game is not you versus the players. It's
No.
you and the players.
Yes, you're taking them on a magical mystery tour of your imagination, God help them.
I mean, if it's my imagination, it's full of sparkles and rainbows and swords, so...
I know, this is why you need to run, like, you know, My Little Pony campaign or something.
Ew, no.
Or run something that's just an acid trip.
Yes, exactly.
Massive trips.
Sounds like...
We actually had one that they have an acid trip.
One campaign I was recently in, we found out towards the end we'd been in a computer simulation the whole time, which was just, whoops, yay, and then everything started glitching out around us.
The next one, plan ahead so you know where to take players. Works to a point.
Plan ahead, don't plan too far ahead. It's one of those things of like when I planned the campaign that I was doing, I was like, okay, I know on their first mission I want them to meet this person. I know that this person's going to give them this task, and I know that to do this task they have to get there, and that's all I know. Everything else I'm throwing in on the fly. Like, I might have some ideas for like, okay, this is monsters that they can encounter, you know, do a quick bit of research as to combat. But apart from that, everything else, like, I try and keep as much on the fly as possible, mainly because I have a couple of players in my lot who love to, if they think that they can tell where I'm going, they won't. So...
I have a player that does that. They
You are a player that does that.
Oh, I know I'm a player that does it. I love doing it. Breaking systems is fun.
Yes, if you are someone who's making a homebrew and wants to sell it on, then finding players that want to break it is actually really good, because then you can, you know, figure out where all the holes are in your system. However, if you're playing a pre-made system, is she one of those? Okay. If you're playing a pre-made system and clearly has not had quite the QA testing that it should have done, it can be a bit frustrating. This is where we homebrew in other people's mistakes. Yes, I forgot I put the, yes, you have to be prepared to change on the fly and be loosey-goosey, and yeah, just basically just don't railroad players. One tip I got told was don't put cutscenes in. Like, I feel like a lot of people, especially people who've played more video games than tabletop, put, like, you know, oh no, this is happening, and then this will happen, and this will happen, and then the players can get interactive, and it's like, no, the players will want to interact before then. Like, the example I heard was he had, they were going to witness an execution and then stuff was going to happen. And as soon as the execution started to happen, one of the guys cast hold person. So now it can't happen. And he was just like, no, you can't do that. This has to happen, guys, otherwise I have a thing planned, don't do that. And it's like, that's bad GMing.
It's like the day my
There is one situation where a sort of cutscene style thing does work.
Yeah.
And that's if the GM forgets that he's not worked in a way to make the players work together.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
probably a good starting place, is actually how to get
Yeah, this is what you've done and this is why you like each other.
I mean, it is going, yeah, obviously that's a bit different. I'm more talking like, you know, in the middle of your story, like when you need to dump exposition on them in the middle of a story, it can be you.
We had a problem very similar to this quite recently. The pair of us play in a Harry Potter RP because we found the second edition of the book that they released for it. We have had to homebrew it a bit because it's definitely not been beta tested well.
It's really easy to break that one.
Oh dear Lord.
But one of the things that happened was that during a cutscene we were in the middle of the Hogwarts Express in the luggage car, and we were going down when everyone had basically someone had come onto the train and was just like causing havoc. So our party was like, okay, we're going to go follow him to make sure everyone's safe. We went down and her brother was being essentially tortured in the luggage car by this guy, and the GM, like, God rest his soul, meant this to be a cutscene that we'd come in later and find he disappeared. We were like, fuck no, we're saving him.
It didn't help that I was playing the power-based character who's notorious for having a temper.
Uh-oh.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
So we literally made an entire plan to like knock the entire luggage car down.
I got to blow up part of the Hogwarts Express.
Yes.
I am reminded of the campaign that I was part of where we attacked a load of Nazis by making them shit themselves because one guy had the power to control someone's internal organs. But only the digestive system. He had power over the digestive system, that was it.
That sounds beautiful.
It was beautiful. Unfortunately, it did not. One guy rolled really well and was still able to shoot, but you know, we tried, yes. Rule of cool. Sometimes your players have better ideas than you do. Like you were saying, because like they'll have a cutscene plan, but your player will have an idea of, oh no, but it'd be really cool if I could do this, that, or the other. And sometimes it's best to just let them, because it makes a better story. Like, this is one of the reasons I fall into GMing rather than writing, because I like writing up I like thinking up scenarios, but I'm really shit at thinking how to sort them out. So just hand them over to your players and go, okay, sort it for me, do my story. It's, yeah, because often, like that saying, awesome comes before optimised, you will get players who are like, I will admit I'm one of these players where I'm like, I could have a really well balanced character who could be useful in loads of situations, or I could dump everything into charisma.
Says everything.
You just
Yes.
walk in and you're just like, stop.
Well, I feel it's backfiring because I'm a cleric who's dumped everything into charisma. You feel better.
It's like me, and my favourite role is the bard, who's dumped all of their thing into something useless.
Like what? Like
Constitution.
Yeah, Constitution.
Constitution's a good one.
yeah.
It's about class that relies on the Constitution.
Yeah, but she won't take it.
No,
That ruins the fun.
but I like my overpowered loot that can blow people away.
Yes. So don't be afraid to take ideas from your players. Obviously, when it comes to stuff like leveling, like you were saying, with homebrew, sometimes you'll have people going, oh, I kind of want a multi-class in this, that, or the other direction. Can we work this out? It's a thing you have to work on a case-by-case basis. It is something you want to be a bit careful of with power creep, because sometimes it's not fun when all of your players are really overpowered because you gave them a load of really weapons that you thought would be really good and really overpowered, and now you're like, I can't throw anything at you because you can just blow it away and it's not fun, because you still want combat to be something of a struggle. So it is a bit of a balancing act there. Like, go with cool, but also don't throw them loads of +1 to everything items, because they will just not have fun, they'll be stuck. Yes, this is exactly it. When not to follow the rules. Because like you were saying, sometimes people don't properly beta test, or sometimes like with some of the systems that I've played, they focus a lot on things that is not fun, like survival. I'm sure there are people who like to play games where it's, you know, a survival and how long can we wander in space before we have to touch down, how long can we walk through this desert before we have to die of starvation, you know, this, that or the other. I'm not one of those people, but I know people who do like them, but I tend to just wave. I think when I was playing Warhammer 40k's Dark Heresy, we waived a lot of the rules because they were like, if you don't have expertise in this weapon, you can't use it. This included all weapons. So it meant that if we were following the rules, my tech priest would not be able to use their power axe. And I was like, it's an axe. You hit people with the sharp end. I've got enough intelligence to figure that part out. So, you know, stuff like that is, yeah.
I think, you know, like you said with working out weight and carrying things as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't actually follow that rule when it comes to...
I think my rule with that one is if it's something ridiculous, like with the aforementioned character, I had a rocket launcher, but I was only allowed to carry it if I dropped other things, because obviously that was heavy. Unfortunately, I managed to rules lawyer that by pointing out that my third arm could carry my entire body weight, but still, my GM didn't like me.
Don't play a hobbit and then decide you want full power armour.
Yeah, exactly.
Your GM is going to bang their head against the wall.
I think there's always like a rule of like, there's a line of like, you know, oh yeah, I can't be bothered to count ammo, I can't be bothered to like, you know, keep track of everything, you know, you can just carry it. But like some things, it is a case of like, for example, rocket launchers or things, unless your character is power armor or something. Yes, basically this is just why we homebrew, and if someone is like being really rules lawyery and saying, you know, oh no, but this is how it's written, so we have to do it this way, then just, you know, curse them. Yeah, obviously, like when you are tweaking these things, you do have to be a bit careful, but yeah, because it can ruin the game.
A good way to get around people like that is if you have like the GM screen, you just pretend to roll behind it.
Yes, I do that. Whenever my players have decided to talk between themselves and like not pay attention to me, I just start rolling, and they're like, "What are you rolling for?" You'll find out. I'm rolling to make them pay attention to me. That's all. But yeah, and obviously, like if they are like trying to do a, you know, rule of cool, you know, we want to do this, that, or the other, just like they don't have to know how high they have to roll in order to make it work. If you really don't want it to happen, just be like, you have to roll 30 on a d20. Good luck. Which is possible with pluses, but very hard.
I'm just enjoying what's written in Native Picture for Dinosaurs here.
Oh, what?
Animate dead. It's fun.
Yeah, I haven't got that with my cleric, unfortunately, still.
Oh. Those players!
Those players! I think quite a lot of here, since everyone's played, you all know that guy.
Yes.
Don't be that guy.
Or girl.
Or girl, or potato, or gender non-binary cloud. The player who constantly wants to PvP everyone else, the player who wants to steal everyone else's items, the player who doesn't want to follow the plot that you have carefully crafted out and wants to go wandering off elsewhere, you know, the player who wants to seduce everything, which is a bit more fun, but still, yeah. I have at least one guy who, there is a reason why I am next time playing on a system that he doesn't have the rulebook for, because he is such a rules lawyer, it's really annoying.
I had a player like this that insisted on going through the opposite door to the rest of the party, so I just put a really big hole behind this door and he fell in. The rest of the party were like,
that'll teach you for doing your own thing.
yeah.
Well, I was
They didn't rescue him, they just left him.
There was a time when I was playing a character and I decided to be a bit hesitant going through the door, so she decided to have 3 guards attack just me on my own.
Oops.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
No, you can't just keep killing them.
No, I know it's been tempting. There was, I used to play tabletop in an actual tabletop game society. There was one guy who we were having real trouble with because about 2/3 of all the GMs in the club had said he can't play in my game anymore, he's too annoying. Which happens, sometimes you just have a player that your GM style and their style of playing just isn't clicking. It happens, they just won't like you, nothing you can do, you know. With this person, they were they just assumed that dying a lot in D&D was part of the game. We're like, no, the GM is doing that to try and stop you from being an idiot, you know. But still.
Well, in earlier versions of D&D, that was a thing.
Yes, we were playing 5th edition though, so it's but yeah, obviously I feel like the best thing to do if someone's really just making it so it's no fun for you, it's no fun for the rest, just talking to them out of character, communication. Best thing to do, just be like, look, I understand that this is important to you, I understand that this, that, or what is however you are, but you're really just upsetting everyone else, this is happening.
It's not making it fun anymore.
No, you're not making it fun anymore, you're basically...
Like the player that always stabs you in the back with
Yeah.
every single character in a campaign.
Or
I've only
steals all
seen
the
that
gold.
work once when there was someone stabbing you in the back, and that's because absolutely nobody knew about it until the time it happened. We were in a homebrew game called Apprentice where everyone's a wizard. And basically we were fighting this huge cult, which is an optional boss battle essentially. We just did it because we were like, fuck it, we might as well. And it's really awesome and epic. And we'd gone, 3 members of the party were down. My guy was almost down and just hitting the guy's last hit points. There was a mage behind us who was throwing fireballs. We got the guy down. The guy threw a fireball at him. He got down. I just got him down a turn before then. And I was like, oh great, you can come and heal us. Throws a fireball in the back of my head. Runs off.
Lovely.
But I was so mad at that player for the next week.
There are systems like Paranoia and things like that are more geared towards PvP if that's something that people want to do. I've never played those, but I know those systems do exist. It is a case of just some systems allow it and some systems don't. It is a very much game by game basis, but if it's every player, maybe just adjust your GM style a bit or talk to people and be like, what is it that you're having a problem with, how can I change? But other than that, I'm just like we said, you go then Coco, you just keep going, because they're not running anything. And yeah, Q&A.
I love that.
Yes.
I know that.
I told you that's how Pixie ended her campaign, didn't she? I was secretly Cthulhu all the time, and she decided to end the campaign by getting rid of my glamour, so I had to attack. So I had to turn the whole party mad by accident. Yay! Do you have any questions then?
Or stories, those are good too.
Oh yeah, all stories.
Yes.
Depends how many people were here for the last one. Depends whether I tell my story again.
So I ran a campaign with just my friends and my girlfriend, and I had the stereotypical, he didn't trust anything you do, everything's a mimic, everything's a demon and all this stuff. And then I had they're all new players, and then I had the one that was kind of semi into it, and then the girlfriend was into it, and then I had that guy, my best friend. Everything was a kill, everything was his. And he just took whatever he wanted. I gave him a sword at one point that every time he used it, it did 1 damage to him minimum, and he was a berserker. So I did an encounter where they were travelling along the road, and there was a girl who was on her own on a rock, and my suspicious friend was like, nope, not touching it. The girlfriend was like, nope, not touching it. The other friend was like, nope, not touching it. And the other guy was like, I throw an axe at it. So he one-shot her, and I was like, well, that's that demon-possessed child encounter gone. But he goes to retrieve his axe, and I decided that there's a spell around where she was trapped. So I just changed the encounter completely on the fly. So he grabs the axe, and then he tries to leave the rock area. And I said, actually, no, there's an invisible wall around you. And the suspicious character was like, okay, I'm going to go and help him. And he puts his arm out to pull him through or something. And then his arm gets stuck. So it ends up with two people stuck in a really claustrophobic one-way shield. And it took them 2 sessions to get out.
Always a good. Yes, up the top house.
So, I played in if you've ever heard of it, Changeling. It's one of the World of Darkness games.
Yeah.
And it's great, but now these two here have both had to DM for me. I'm an unnaturally lucky player.
Oh, I have the rules lawyer is a naturally unlucky player.
Oh.
So it's...
In this Changeling game, there was 3 of us. There was myself, my friend Hikari, and our friend Golden. Golden is the single unluckiest player I have ever met. At one point, we have managed to infiltrate a hedge queen's castle in the fairy world, and we may have stolen her wedding present, and we were running away very fast as her army chased us. Golden fell over. So me and Hikari, both of our characters had the Fickle Fate and the Favour Fate and a few other contracts we'd taken, so we could give people other dice by taking penalties. By the end of it, we'd blown all of our contracts and all of our glamour to save Golden. We gave her 20 to 30 extra dice.
Jeez.
She didn't get a single success.
Oh my god.
Sometimes
Mine, that's the kind of lucky I have. Medic critically fumbles with a chain weaponry.
always fun.
There's sort of 2 pieces of advice I'd always give GMs. Firstly is that as much as you're making the world where your players are to have fun, the point of the game is that you have fun as well. Don't forget that, and you won't really ever go wrong, because you'll do things that mean you have fun and your players have fun. Because if you're stressing over it constantly, not that great. So something like, I had a situation with a player recently in a D&D game I'm DMing, where he had no armour, no weapons, no underwear. He was completely and utterly naked. And he decided to go and jump out a fucking window off these kobolds. And I was like, okay. There was a kobold they couldn't see on the rooftop firing crossbow arrows at them. And he's like, who's firing arrows at me? And he sees this kobold, and he's like, can I use Earth Tremor to try and jump up onto it and body slam it? And I'm like, okay. Roll for it. He rolls a nat 20. So he fucking naked butt stomps this goddamn kobold who's running away. So have fun with nat 1s and nat 20s, because they can do a lot for you.
It's why I'm always a little in some systems it's not as bad with D&D, whenever you say okay roll for it, you do have to be aware that with that specific rule system, nat 1s and nat 20s are always successes and fails no matter where you've put the threshold. Which is a bit
and
of a...
bullshit to whoever says they don't account for skill checks. They do.
Yes.
Speaking of naked stories, I started a campaign by having, I think, all 6 of my players wake up naked in a room together with nothing.
Oops.
That was all they got to start with. It was just, you're all naked in a room. Orgy time. I mean, they never actually
Why
came
did you
up...
ever leave the room?
Yeah.
Maybe they have very low charisma.
Yeah. I mean, they never came up with a reason as to why they were naked in this room, but...
One day I'm going to do the mystery campaign idea that I saw.
Oh.
The one where basically you give all your players a blank character sheet. You know what their characters are, but they don't, and they all wake up with amnesia or something and they have to figure out through playing the game who their characters are. I think that would be fun.
That's cool.
Stick it in Call of Cthulhu, it's hilarious.
I've never actually played Call of Cthulhu, but I want to.
Yes.
Because last time I played anything with Cthulhu, I was Cthulhu. Which
I know you're getting Christmas now.
Oh, okay. I still have to make my way through Discord games before I... But yes.
I did one similar to that where I had players make 2 character sheets and then I mixed them all up and then just randomly handed them out.
I do remember one DM, he didn't do this, he told us after he decided against it, he was going to make us make one really good character sheet and one really bad character sheet. And then we'd start off as the good characters, and if we died, we'd have to be the bad characters. We'd have to be someone else's bad character. Yes, exactly. That's why he didn't do it.
Along the same lines of the blank character sheet, but the GM knows who the characters are thing. Something one of my GMs did for a one-shot was, it only really works if you know your people quite well. We were playing Werewolf, and it works really well with World of Darkness games. He gave us all the exact same character sheet. We put all our names on the back and handed them. I've made you a sheet of the character I think will suit you really well. Gave us all that. We weren't allowed to see each other's sheets. We were allowed to come up with a name and sort of a speciality sort of thing. Did this. We didn't find out until about a week later that we all had the same character sheet.
I think that sort of thing works better with Roll20 or something than it would in real life because people sneak. But still, yes.
We actually played I think it was either last year or the year before up here at ALcon, we played a Call of Cthulhu game where we won before we had to even really do much. We were against the cult of Noel Edmonds and we did fight a Mr. Blobby Deacon train. But we had a mechanic where everyone in the party would choose someone else in the party and give them a fatal flaw. My friend Kyle was in the party and he DM'd for me for the past 2 years, so he got revenge and made my character narcoleptic, so I fell asleep while fighting Mr. Blobbing through an active. But we managed to survive this encounter and actually get into the story, where we may have discovered that we were supposed to assassinate the Neighbourhood Watch, who, one of the things that the Neighbourhood Watch did as part of the cult is they would go around and if they handed you a piece of paper with a black circle on it, you had 2 weeks to kill either yourself or one of your relatives, or shit goes down. We may have proceeded to just make copies of paper with black circles and hand it to everyone who lived in the town we were in, murdered everyone. I mean, we completed the game, so we won. We may have committed genocide.
I mean, I feel like that kind of taps into
Holy purification.
one of the things I did have on the slide and I forgot to mention was when you're planning your game, bear in mind how long you're going to have to play it. Because stuff like this that we're mentioning works fine for like an evening, but if you're planning on playing it, because like D&D can go from like a couple of hours to a couple of years. If you're running a campaign and you know it might have the capacity to go on for quite a while, sometimes being gimmicky is not as good because there are some systems that have more scope in them than others. Yeah, that's all I would say. Yes.
Firstly, sort of a question to that. What kind of systems do you think have the scope for that kind of?
Well, D&D and like Dark Heresy, most of the big ones do. There's a couple more like ones that don't tend to be more like homebrewy stuff. Tends to be a bit more like this is very specific to my situation. The one that I play called Comics Code, I would say, because it's literally like you have 2 dice to roll and that's it. And you only have 3 abilities. I'm like, I played it for 6 months and I feel like we were getting up to about the limits of how we could push the system, and we'd added stuff in at that point because we were getting bored. But yeah.
Mutants and Masterminds is pretty flexible and can go a long time. And then you've got like Stars Without Numbers and things like that as well. So there's quite a few different systems.
Oh, GURPS as well, obviously, because like it says, Universal Role-Playing System, GURPS is pretty universal.
Ars Magica can go a long time.
I always find with things like that, it's often best to ask around the GMs, you know, the players, and be like, what game did you play for the longest that you enjoyed? Because sometimes the players and the GMs will be able to say, that one might have a massive rule book, but it only lasted 4 weeks. But this one that's got like this book this big lasted 2 years. And you're like, okay, I find that sometimes works better than just googling really long really long role-playing games.
There's a Ghostbusters RPG that introduces something that I found really useful. It's got what's called the routine system in it, so where you've got like segments where it would normally take like
several roles.
yeah, it would take. It's not particularly action orientated. It's not. It's hugely important to the story, but it's a bit of a dull section. So what you do is you take one person, and they make a series of roles, and depending on how these roles turned out, you use a pre-created like routine in that place, but it's got loads of variation in it, and it can be really handy if you're not quite sure how to get through a scene without making it drag.
Yeah, because dragging can be a problem. Like even combat can drag. I remember in one campaign we had a monk, and I think every time, because of the way he built his character, he was having to make about 6 rolls each time he attacked, all with multiple dice, and then he had to do multiplications and stuff. So it meant every time it was his turn, the rest of us would just be like, right, we've got nothing to do for the next 20 minutes. Because it's one of those things that, because, yeah, like, I feel like mainly part of that's just like making sure that your system's like a bit of a mix, but some of it is being a bit wary of people who are like, no, I found this like plan for a homebrew character and it looks really cool and I really want to do it. Especially if they just like having a look at that, especially looking at how that levels up and being like, yeah, but you do realise that if you keep this to like level 7 or something, then your turn's going to take half an hour, and then no one is going to want to play. Yes.
For people getting into role-playing games and whatnot, where would you suggest going? Like, is there like card game stores that you would suggest?
Travelling Man for me, but that's local. I mean, most of the time I'm just like, look locally. Like, for me, I started with the York Wargaming Society, which was also a tabletop society. Yeah, I mean, it's quite hard to get started, I find sometimes, especially when you're trying to find people local. Most of the time I would say just like look at what your local comic book stores are. Most of them will have like, you know, things of like, oh, we know this, that or the other, you know, we play tabletop here every week or something.
I got quite lucky because where I live in Sheffield, there's a small independent company called Patriot Games or something.
Oh yeah.
Patriot,
And I
yeah.
actually went in and talked to them, and the guys in there were really good at helping me pick like some games to start with. But I find that sometimes, like, if you can find a local shop like that, they'll have the time to sit there and talk to you.
And also they might have the space to offer you, like, to advertise for players if you do want to run.
Or they'll be able to go, this is your local university wargaming group, or your local this, that and the other, and be like, go there.
Yeah. Local university groups, because they tend to know where to go for the outside ones as well.
Yeah. Yes, you're waving at me.
Yeah, so does anyone know of any particular places around the southeast that...
Southeast. Whereabouts are you from southeast?
Well, I'm moving there, so
fair enough.
around Brighton, where...
Around Brighton. Brighton, you're fine. There are a load of comic shops in Brighton, down the lanes. There are loads.
There's so much
There's
stuff
so
in
much
Brighton.
stuff in Brighton. Literally, if you go into any comic book shop, they will probably end up running a tabletop at some point. There's about 10 or 15 of the buggers dotted around Brighton Central, so there are loads.
I tend to find a lot of these places that are wanting to run these as well are often desperate for more DMs because you always have more players than you have people wanting to run games as well. So if you're going there and going, oh, I'm interested in running games, they're like,
Yeah, we're never letting you go. We've got that issue at uni. We've got about 10 DMs and 100 people wanting to play different systems.
that sounds like fun.
Yeah, the DM is a rare endangered species.
It is.
Yes, thankfully we have 4 in our group.
This is why we are training them up here. We hope. Yes.
So, talking about training games, how do you like to get a bunch of random murder hobos together in order to start a campaign? And how can you avoid repeating the same sort of starting theme?
So you're wanting to avoid that you are all in a pub fight sort of thing?
Well, I mean, it's...
Yeah. I mean, one that I used in the first campaign that I ran was, this is that thing that I was saying about you shouldn't assume that your players know as much about stuff as you do.
Yeah.
It's the Shakespeare problem.
Yes, I assumed that people knew more about Shakespeare and Fae than I do, and had them all had a dream where they got visited by a fairy called Mab. None of them knew who she was. Goddamn anti-intellectuals.
Who's mad?
Queen of Dreams. Titania, basically. That was why they didn't recognise because I changed the name. But yeah, so I did one like that where I had a, they all had the same dream and the dream told them they'd all been chosen, which was possibly a little shit.
That's generic there.
Yes. The one that we did after that, we all were, like, I've seen a lot where it's like, you all got randomly chosen by some outside force and you all just materialised next to each other. The one that I played that was based on the game show Trapped was like that. We all just materialised in a tower together and were like, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? There's dogs attacking us, let's have this conversation later.
I've played one once where we all were participating in a game show, like Big Brother style. They were just like, you all entered. You're all now stuck in this location together. Enjoy. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I do find the easiest way is just to have some external force. And sometimes, like, I know that you want your characters to be able to play whatever they want, but sometimes you do have to give them a bit of a structure of, you're already part of this organisation. Like with the urban one, I'm going to have to go, no matter where you want your life to have taken you, it has ended up, you are part of this organisation and you've all been put together in a team by your bosses, sort of thing.
A piece of advice I was given a while ago by DMs, and something I tell other DMs when they ask, is a lot of the time your players, either through chance or through malice or just through general just being players, they will not see things the same way you do. Is, for instance, say there's two doors and you want them to go through the right door so they see the boss, for example. Or just like other examples where you want them to go somewhere to do something and they don't because they genuinely just don't think of it.
Yeah.
I was told this example of Schrodinger's doors, which were essentially, in some scenarios, it pays to be able to just move your things around. If your players miss a scenario that had important plot relevance, move the elements that were in that plot they weren't part of and put them in other places.
Like
your players won't know. It's like when you're an actor. As long as you don't say you've done something wrong, they won't know the difference.
That is warning us that we have 15 minutes. Yes.
I once was in a game where it was required to move the plot forward that you search a particular room, like a bookcase or something like that, and make a particular difficulty against it. And people, the people of the group were just basically struggling in order to figure out what they needed to do to advance the plot.
It is if you're sort of basing it on people remembering on their own bat to make a perception check, it can be very...
Right, or getting a specific role in a specific room, doing a specific thing. It can be easier just to make the plot point more accessible, or because you've got to think, is the player going to find it? Is he going to beat the difficulty, or is it easier just to give it to him in order to advance?
I feel like to some extent, it is like knowing who your players are as well. Like, this is easier to do when you know people. Like, if you know you have a player who's the sort of person who will compulsively roll perception and search every item in case they find something, then obviously you can afford to leave stuff a little more obtuse. But if you have people where you know they won't look, and you can always do, like you were saying, I know one campaign where I was hoping that people would go to the desert and find a certain thing. They, for some reason, misinterpreted me enough to decide they needed to go to the mountains. The thing's in the mountains now. Fuck it. All the mummies are very lost.
I have this problem where I was trying to give my players this piece of information and they just weren't having it. So I literally gave them a random person to walk up to them and hand them the book they needed. So one of my players went, I see a person approaching from the distance, and shot them. And I was like, okay, so I'm shot and dead. Are you going to check the body? Nah.
Oh. It's because you proposed it.
Because at that point, I usually
one
have
solution that my GM had is a random relevant character suddenly gains a voice in the back of their head.
A way to...
This is where the puck snake come in. That's the whole reason.
Oh, the snake, yeah.
One campaign I was in was the one where they were working for fairies, so I was like, your boss has possessed a small animal that one of you are carrying. Occasionally that small animal will tell you things. only reason for that is so I can avoid this sort of thing. I'm like, the snake knows.
We don't have a crazy character. Gain a voice at the back of their head. Ooh, what's that?
Always good to have like sort of like I know in Warhammer having a psycho around is good for that.
An Eldar is brilliant for it.
I had a friend in a homebrew that had a you get a phone call from your mother. She tells you this. Because they got that sick of trying to get the players to get this thing. It's like, you get a phone call from your mum, you can't not answer it, it's your mum. The consequences will be worse.
People have their hands up there as well, so yes.
We had a very similar problem to the whole missing a plot point or an information thing, except in a homebrew campaign that was supposed to last 4 hours that started at ALcon several years back, it proceeded to go on for over a year because we all fell in love with it too much. I was playing the skill monkey of the group. Apparently the only skill monkey of the group, because when my character disappeared and got captured and ended up in the dungeons,
I was left to pick all the locks.
But the rest of the party was stuck on the same door for half an hour.
Because they wouldn't let me pick
That was
it.
the same campaign that I became besties with a dragon.
They basically, that was in real time. By the time they'd actually finally opened the door, my character had woken up from being unconscious, unlocked her jail cell, escaped, realised there were other people in the jail cells, killed the orc that was in the jails, robbed him blind, found a secret book full of information that we were going to need to win the campaign, and robbed the wine cellar.
Yeah, if I was Carl, that thing that you mentioned, I probably would have given you like unlucky or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just sort of a question to open up to the entire sort of room is you hear about the cardinal sin of railroading, and this is something I ask my players about a lot, is like, what do you consider railroading to be? Because there's many different definitions and type of railroading. So in order to avoid that sort of mistake, which causes lack of fun for you, lack of fun for your players, and it can generally destroy campaigns and groups. So I just want to open it to the room. What do you define railroading as? Do you have examples? Because sometimes it's good to know what not to do.
You after how to run your tabletop game?
Yeah, we were just going to sit down and watch.
Yeah, that's fine. We're nearly over, but go for it. Tell you what, you've entered so you can answer the question. Do you have any examples of railroading in tabletop games?
The only thing I did was some weird Call of Cthulhu game where you had railway lines, that's all I know.
Yeah, fair enough. I think, I had an issue with the campaign I was part of that ended up being a hallucination, where because the DM didn't want to reveal it was a hallucination, they would often have to say, no, you can't do that, but couldn't reveal why. And I feel that was very frustrating for them because it was being railroaded. That was why I was in the campaign, because my whole purpose in the campaign was to be secretly being told things by the big bad to guide the party where they were supposed to be. Which I feel like, although it was fun for me and the GM, it was not fun for the players in some ways, because they were getting, both within the party and from the DM, sort of, forced to go this one direction.
I feel like one of the worst cases of railroading I've ever had is we had a GM that made their NPC players you couldn't kill them. They were just completely, you just couldn't, and it was like, well, but he's really annoying, we want him to die, and she was like, no. It's like, oh.
Plot in the
Yeah.
dreaded
He was a plot-heavy character, so the GM then made him a saint.
9 minutes, huh?
When we had 3 Sisters of Battle on ship.
Aww.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Is there a point where railroading can be a good thing?
I mean, I have had moments where players are like, we literally don't know what to do. You need to give us.
That's the thing. I mean, I'm very, very new to doing this, and I ran one game with my friends who literally they sat and went.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult because it was a case of it's the first thing I've ever ran. I've never even played as a player. I've only ever ran it because there's no way that anybody else would do it. So it's me or nobody.
Yeah.
And they all sat there absolutely blank face, and it was a case of move it along, create an NPC and drag them through because it was the only way to do it. But I don't know if that ever works as a good thing as people get more experience than
I found that it worked. I got pushed quite heavily into the leader role in a Rogue Trader game. I had never played Rogue Trader before, and the Rogue Trader of the group, who was supposed to be the leader, basically committed himself to demons, so we had to kill him. I was his second in command, so I became leader, and I had no idea what I was doing. So it was a case of I would have benefited from sort of the GM going, okay, this is the kind of thing you need to be doing occasionally.
Everyone says it's a bad thing, but
yeah,
where does it work and where does it not? I guess is the question.
I think it's a case by case, to be honest, because it depends on your. There are some people I've played with who really, really despise any sort of plot hint. They just want to wander and have the GM put the plot in front of them. Whereas I've known others who really do just want to be dragged along. I think it's a case of dragging people along is not bad, it's when they're finding it boring. Like, so long as you're dragging them along and occasionally bumping them against a fork in the road and being like, at least pick something, please.
I have found that if your players are really struggling, giving them a map or random NPC 26 walks over and says, go there and do this.
Drawing a map is one of the easiest ways I've found of just going, you open your map and this bit is glowing.
We're going.
You've got to find your own way there, but it's glowing.
Your health is low, hero.
We've got time for one more.
One more, and then, yes, it's under 5 minutes. Yes, at that.
It's kind of an anti-railroading thing. Railroading is bad in my opinion, but the players have to accept plot hooks. Campaign I'm in, GM had someone come to our house, character called Shay answered. And he was basically like, oh, I'm a traveller from far away, and the inn, they wouldn't let me stay, could I stay here? She said, tell them that I sent you, they'll accept you, and close the door.
And you're like, no. Please be like, why did they tell you no?
Sadly, we weren't there to argue in character, but we're just like, when a distant traveller shows up, you don't slam the door in their face.
It is something where you want to try and encourage curiosity in your players a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think building on railroading, it's really dependent on the people, because you can have some really creative people who just they take it from there. They share the story and they move on and they're curious and they want to contribute. And then you get others that are more timid or uncertain and they don't know how to contribute. So
I find especially when people are very new to the game and they've played games like board games or video games where they only have a set amount of inputs. So they're like, I know I have the option to attack or run away, and those are my only two choices. Whereas it's like, you could do anything. You could suddenly sprout a feather boa and do a dance with them, and that's very intimidating. And they're like, I hit it because that's what I know what to do from Call of Duty, kill a man,
Yeah, with my first group, I played really fast and loose with the rules to make it as fun as possible in combat. So it's almost cinematic combat. So they were impaling goblins up against the cave walls with arrows and things like that. Just because it was I wanted to give them the idea that they had the power to do anything, as opposed to
getting
just
as a DM, being really being willing to do the voices and describe things really cinematically can be really good. Some of the best DMs I've had are actually people who've done improv theatre and things like that in the past, so they've had that sort of acting thing, which can be something to look into if you're struggling with that half. I find of just engaging your players is just try and be more engaging.
If anybody wants, sorry, just quick. If anybody wants a good example of DMing on Roll20, there's a group called the Unexpectables, and she does voice acting as the GM. So
nice.
Team 4-star on that one.
Yeah, Team 4-star.
My thing was just that narrative is a really good way to introduce a lot of people to role-playing aspects, because a lot of people, I grew up with it with friends, just we found it by accident and we just started playing it. So we started with very number crunchy systems, and then later on we came into narrative systems, and we found because we just hadn't done it before, we were
I'm someone
very,
who always prefers narrative over number crunching, I'm not going to lie, but that's partly because I hate doing maths.
yeah.
So,
That's
So
why
it
I'm
took
not
me
playing
joining these guys
numbers.
as a
That's
group
much
to
to
get
game.
into narrative properly.
I'm always like, if
and
you're going to do
like
number crunching, why not just play a video game? Just play StarCraft and, you know.
do
We'll
a
go
thing.
to a maths lesson.
Yes. Are we out of time?
Yes.
Yes.
We're going to have to wrap this one up.
Yes, but, you know, we'll be boot. So, yes, thank you very much for watching me ramble for an hour.
Yay!
It was fun.